So you're looking to build a house here in Northport. Well, today we are going to be talking about all the do's and don'ts, the pros and cons of building a new construction house here in Northport, and actually talk to you about what you need to look out for when it does come time to either purchase a lot or start talking with a builder about building a house, because I get calls from people talking about the horror stories of them building in Northport, and we are also building houses just like this one in Northport as well. So I want to kind of tell you what to watch out for, such as the protective species, the protected animals that are in Northport, as well as talk to you a little bit about the flood zones, what you need to be aware of when you're trying to pick out a lot, talking about utilities, public utilities, and so much more. So I kind of want to dive in and discuss all this, because that is going to help you when it comes time to build a new house in Northport. But before we talk about all that, whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, ultimately our team is here to help you make the move as smooth as possible. Like I mentioned before, we also build houses, so not only do I handle the real estate aspect of stuff, but I am partnered with an amazing builder where we build custom houses just like this one right behind me, so we can help walk you through the entire process from buying a lot to building a house, as well as we now have a custom house designer too that you can partner with to help design your brand new house here in Northport. So with all of that being said, let's start by talking about what we need to look out for when we are building a house here in Northport, and that is all going to start with buying a piece of land first. So when we are buying a piece of land in Northport, the first thing we want to look for is electricity. So I'll pan back behind me. As you see right here, we have electrical lines. Not sure if you can see them from here, but we have power poles and everything. That is the first thing you want to be aware of when you are building in Northport, is where's the nearest electricity, right? Because every single time, if there's not electricity on your lot and you have to put a power pole in, it's about $3,500 every single power pole for the electrical company to come out. So that could be a huge expense. So that is number one. And oftentimes that's associated with a lower price lot. So typically those lots here in Northport are around $15,000 to $19,000, but you got to keep in mind, where's the nearest electricity. Then the second thing we have to be aware of is the protected species here in Northport. So not only do we have protected trees, protected plants and stuff like that, but we also have protected animals such as the elusive gopher tortoise. So I'll throw up a picture right now what a gopher tortoise looks like. And that's probably the most costly animal that you can find on your lot. So what I always recommend and what I always do with my buyers is that we go through the lot, we pick out the lot that they like, and once we go under contract, we have an environmental assessor come out to look at the property and do an environmental assessment on the property to check for gopher tortoises, soil samples, and stuff like that. And if we do find a gopher tortoise, one gopher tortoise on a lot is going to cost $6,000 to remove from the Wildlife Commission. They have to come out and they have to remove the gopher tortoise from the property and relocate it on state land. So that's one of the biggest major costs. And oftentimes, if we do find a gopher tortoise while we're under contract, we can usually negotiate the price down to build in that price of removing that gopher tortoise. But then the second creature that we got to be careful of is the scrub jay. So when we're building in Northport, there's a bird called the scrub jay. And now a scrub jay bird, I'll throw up a picture of what they look like right here, but they are also a protected species here in Northport. However, there is maps to show where the scrub jay zones are. So we can look at a map and see and not buy a lot within a scrub jay zone. However, if you do want to buy a lot that's in a scrub jay zone, it is cheaper to buy that. And you just have to abide by the state rules. Permits are between $2,500 to about $3,500 or so, depending on the size lot that you buy. But that, once again, it's all going to come down to the rules and regulations. So for example, you can't build during certain months when it's nesting season, when they are laying eggs and stuff like that. So you only can clear land outside of mating season and nesting season. So that's another thing to be aware of when you are looking to purchase a piece of land here in Northport. So now that we talked about electricity, talked about gopher tortoises, talked about the endangered species as well as the scrub jays, let's talk a little bit about flood zones here in Northport. So we have a few different flood zones in Northport. The first one is being a flood zone X. So flood zone X is what you ultimately want to buy in Northport, preferably, because Flood Zone X means that you do not need to worry about buying any flood insurance because it does not have a high rate of flooding. And when I mean flooding, it's a lot different than what people think about the Midwest or something like that when they hear flooding. Florida is just a very low-lying area, so that just basically means when we have hurricanes or something like that, then that is the risk of flooding. So you always want to be in a Flood Zone X if you can help it. But then the next flood zone down is a Flood Zone AE, and that typically comes into play when you're on a freshwater canal or a brackish water canal that connects to the Gulf of Mexico. So that is another thing that you got to look out for, is the overall flood zones here in Northport. So like I said, it's more expensive to buy in a Flood Zone X. However, it is well worth the money because you don't have to pay flood insurance, which flood insurance can cost anywhere between $500 to $700 all the way to $35 to $5,000. But in Northport, it's typically around the $500 to $1,000 mark if you are not in a Flood Zone X. So like I mentioned, Flood Zone X is ultimately the best flood zone to be in when you are looking to purchase a lot here in Northport. So now let's discuss public utilities. So we already talked about the electricity, but let's talk about water and sewer. So in Northport, the majority of lots, I would say 90% of the lots, 95% of the lots are going to need a well and septic. So in Northport, none of the lots usually have any wells drilled or any septics put in because there's not a house there. So when we are looking to purchase a land here in Northport, we have to take that into consideration because drilling a well can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000, but then also adding in a sewer can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in Northport. However, there are some lots, I would say 5% of the lots in Northport either have city water, most likely, but then a little bit of city sewer. City sewer is just hard to come by. So when we are looking to purchase lots with city sewer, they are a little bit more expensive just because there's already water running through the property. You just have to connect to it once you build a house. So, you know, it's a give or take what you like. If you like city water or if you want a well, you have lower monthly costs because you don't have to pay for city water fees as well with a well. But then you also have to keep up and manage the well and the septic. But at the end of the day, they're both not very hard to manage and keep up. I can do another video if you guys want to know more about well versus city water and septic versus city sewer. So we can do another video on that. But those are the three major utilities to look out for: water, sewer, and electricity. So now that we have discussed kind of the endangered species and animals in Northport as well as the city utilities to look out for, now let's start talking about estimated build times currently with building a house here in Northport. So the first step when we are looking to build a house in Northport is acquiring the land. So now I would say between finding the piece of land and also closing on the property would take about 30 to 45 days. So that is the first step, is acquiring the land, figuring out what makes sense on the property, what the size property is. Then the second step, once we have the land acquired, is picking the right builder. So we always got to remember this: cheaper is not always better, because when builders are a lot cheaper than other builders, you will know that they are going to cut corners and they are also going to use cheaper materials than the other builders just to make their prices look a little bit lower. And at the end of the day, having a quality builder is either going to make you have an amazing experience or make you have a miserable and terrible experience. Because like I mentioned before, I have people calling me about builders in Northport and they're having an absolute terrible time with building because the builder's not being upfront with them. They kind of chose a little bit lower of a quality builder. So there is some issues with, not every builder in Northport, I just want to say, is going to be a quality builder. So always vet out your builder before you sign any contracts. And like I also mentioned too at the beginning of the video, we have a whole entire team surrounded around this, right? I cover the real estate, my builder builds, and also if you want a designer to design the entire house for you, we also have a designer that will design your entire future home. So like I said, we're kind of an all-in-one team, and here's one of our projects that we're working on, another project we're working on right here. So those are just a couple houses, but we have so many more in the pipeline here for Northport. So I'd love to share them with you if you are interested and also looking to build with us as well, because we are a fully custom builder, but we also have plans that you can choose from too. So the third step in the building process is applying for brush clearing permits. So when we are applying for brush clearing permits, we will need everything. That usually takes about 1 to 2 weeks to get. Once we have the brush clearing permit, then we can go under and do all the underbrushing and all the under clearing of the lot to then have all the surveys done and stuff like that. Then that rolls into step 4, which is getting all the necessary surveys such as the topo survey, the boundary survey, as well as elevation surveys to know how high up we need to build the house due to the elevation of the current land or the current lot. Now, the 5th step in building a house is going to be the builder will submit and apply for all the building permits. So once you already have all the plans figured out, all the drawings of the house, what you're going to be using, what materials, where the land is, and everything like that, then the builder can take all that to the city of Northport and then put that in as like a builder's package so that you can go apply for an entire building permit. So now people ask me, well, how long does it take to get a permit? And that's really up in the air. It could take 4 weeks, it could take 10 weeks to get a permit. It all just depends on how fast the city of Northport is moving, as well as how many builds they have before you to look at the permit. So now that brings us to our 6th step, where the builder is going to be bringing in dirt for the house pad. So as you can see here, we have these houses built up on dirt pads. So that is how we build in Northport. We have to build up the house a little bit just due to the flood zone elevations and also just making sure it's high and dry and we don't have any issues. So that is the 6th step, is bringing in the dirt. Now the dirt, it could take 5 truckloads, dump trucks. It could take 10 dump trucks. It all just depends on the elevation of your lot. And so now that brings us to our 7th and final step, which is basically starting to build and actually breaking ground, besides putting the dirt, but actually starting to take it out of the ground, erect it out of the ground like these houses. So now the building process in total, depending on what materials your builder already has or how long it's going to take to order. Like for us, we are building with also, besides the concrete block and wood trusses, we're also building out of all steel, which makes it a lot stronger of a building material. We don't have to worry about termites, fire damage, or anything like that because we're not using wood. Everything is built all out of steel and kind of has a little bit more flexibility than concrete and wood combined. So with us, we can build a steel house in about 7 months once we have all the materials and everything. Like I said, windows is basically our biggest hurdle at the moment for us. It takes us about 13 to 16 weeks to get them, but we order them once we have all the house plans taken care of and everything like that. But if you are building more of the traditional route, which we also do, such as these houses where we're building them out of concrete block and wood trusses as well, it can take anywhere from 12 to 13 months to build. It all just depends on the current materials. We can finish them sooner, but once again, trusses take a long time to get, as well as certain window brands, and also concrete now, because a lot of the major developers such as Neil Communities, DR Horr, and Lennar are all buying up the concrete supply. So it's all gonna vary depending on the builder, what materials you're using, and everything like that. So that kind of wraps up today's video about talking about, what to look out for when you're buying in Northport, when you're building in Northport. And I hope you guys found a lot of valuable information in this. And like I mentioned before, we are an entire team wrapped around new construction here in Northport. I do the real estate, my builder builds, and our house designer also will design the house if you want him to as well. So now, if you guys have any other questions about building a house in Northport, or if you want our team to build you a house, custom house here in Northport, and find you the land and take you all the way from acquiring the land to handing over the keys to your brand new house, let me know. You can reach out to me with my contact information up above, but you can also drop some questions and comments down in the comment section here in this video to see what other questions you guys have about the building process in Northport, because I'd be more than happy to answer any and all questions for you. So thank you guys for watching this video, and like I said, like, subscribe, and also hit that little bell icon so you guys get notified every single time we drop one of our weekly videos. But until next time, I will see you guys all on the flip side.